Hello and welcome to Added Time, the podcast that puts you in the know with all things women's football. And this week was the return of the WSL after the international break and some goalkeepers making plenty of headlines. But thank God I'm a presenter and I'm not in goal, because if I saw these two, my co-host, running towards me, I'd be pretty terrified. I am joined by best mates and ballers, Fran Kirby and Beth England. How are you, Beth?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, how are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. I've missed the podcast. Glad to be back to it. How are you, Fran?
Yes, all good, all good. Glad that we're back chatting with each other again. It's been a while since we recorded one, so very happy to be back.
Yeah, me too. And just to say thank you to all the messages from our lovely listeners asking when we are back recording. Bit of time away. I was on holiday. These two were also away doing different things. So what have you two been up to? Can you fill us in? Who wants to go first? Go on, Fran.
International break was a nice little break for me. Was in training a few days, off for a few days, so that was nice. And then yeah, been celebrating a birthday the last week. So been quite busy, but a good busy.
Okay, nice. How about you, Beth?
Yeah, a little, well, I'd say chilled. Mine's probably a lot more chaotic than Fran's. I've been painting my house, doing a bit of redecorating, and then going home, seeing my family and spending some time with loved ones. So a little bit of traveling around on top of an intense week at training. I think when it's small numbers, they love to just beast you. So it's always fun. But yeah, no, it's been a great time.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. If there's, less of you, there's more eyes on you, so you've got to work harder.
Yeah, and a lot more running, it seems, I think, as well, which is always fun.
And how are your DIY skills, would you say?
Below average. I would definitely say my wife's much more stellar than mine, but I am getting my way around the paintbrush and the roller now, so we're doing our best. We're giving it a 10/10 effort.
Okay, Fran, have you seen this work yet? Have you seen it with your own eyes to see if it's any good?
Yeah, I've been round to Beth's a few times now, and I went round there when they first got the house and how it looked then, and then I came round when I think a quarter of the house was done, and then I came around again when half the house was done, and then
Lost a few walls.
yeah, no, they've done a really, really good job. Looks really, really nice. And every time I go around, Beth's like, there's still some boxes, and I'm like, Beth, I've been in my house nearly 2 years now, and there's still boxes in mine. Like you
Yeah.
don't need to worry about that. But no,
Yeah.
they've done a really, really nice job, and I obviously can appreciate some good DIY because obviously I went through a very similar process.
Yeah.
It's nearly as nice as Fran's, but not quite as nice.
Right, okay. Well, that
It's
means
nice,
it's
Beth.
very nice, yeah. Okay. So obviously you guys off from playing games, but training hard as discussed, but always watching football, of course. And the Lionesses played a couple of games, losing to a very physical Brazil 2-1, but then winning with real conviction against the Matildas 3-0. What I really liked about this camp as a fan is just seeing some fresh faces, some new call-ups. Who really impressed you guys?
Obviously, the first game was tougher for the team. Obviously, when you play against a team like Brazil and teams that play very similar, they make it very, very difficult to find a rhythm and a flow in the game. They do a lot of tactical fouls. They like a little bit of rolling around on the floor when they've been kicked. And I felt, I actually, instead of talking about maybe an individual, it was interesting to see a lot of the conversations afterwards, especially from the fans, because as a player, when you're watching these games, you know exactly how these teams are going to be. And I think it was different for the Lionesses fans watching because it was so different from what we're used to watching in a women's game. There's a lot of dark arts, a lot of things that these fans have never seen before. And I mean, I saw a lot of complaining. Of course, you want the game to flow, you want the game to do well, but these are the kind of oppositions that England are going to come up against more and more, when they get further into World Cups, when they have group stages. So I really enjoyed watching kind of the team, how they adapted to that and how they're going to learn from it. Because then obviously you look at the Australia game, and I think, the red card so early on just kind of killed the game a little bit for me. I mean, obviously, look, it's a red card. It's fantastic pressure by the Lionesses in terms of winning the ball back high. But for me, that red card, I think it took away what the game could have been. So that one was a little bit, I'm not sure what we really learned from the Lionesses in that game, other than, they can take control when, the team has gone down to 10 men. But yeah, I really enjoyed more the Brazil game because I felt it tested us differently than what the Lionesses are used to in terms of their clubs, in terms of in the WSL, in terms of what they're playing against, the intensity, the pressure, the dark arts. So I really enjoyed seeing them play two different teams, but for different reasons.
Yeah, totally different teams. I mean, there was definitely some needle from the Brazil side, like you say. They was very physical. They were quite vocal at points as well. What is it like to play against oppositions like that, Beth? Does that actually make you raise your level and kind of get a bit more stuck in?
Yeah, I think it can go one or two ways. You either get frustrated with it and you buy into what they're doing, and I think at times we probably sort that where tempers can flare and tackles go flying in, and you're more concerned about moaning to the ref about what they're doing than actually getting on with the game, which ultimately is killing your time as well and what you can do with the ball. Or you can, as you say, go the other way where you're like, actually, I'm not going to feed into this. We are going to get on with it. We're going to take control of the game. I'm going to be physical, but with controlled physical aggression, make sure that I am getting ahead of you. And yeah, I think it's I guess an international break of two tales. You've seen two red cards in two games, but both with two very different outcomes. I think you look at Brazil, they took an early lead, that 2-goal cushion, then getting a player sent off. Without that cushion, would they have still managed to win the game? Obviously hypothetical, but because I think obviously the Lionesses were really pushing for that and had some good opportunities. But again, they showed that even with 10 players on the pitch, they weren't able to dominate Brazil as much as they were able to dominate Australia with 10 players. So I think it's two very different games. But as Fran has mentioned, the dark arts is that I think Brazil were able to get in their heads a bit more. And it does kill the game when you're a player down because, half the time it's the best team on who can park the bus and stop any more goals going in. And it was amazing to see that they were able to still open up the defence of Australia. But again, as Fran said, going into teams that are likely to probably try and get in their heads a bit more, can they still do that against those types of teams? Was very interesting. But yeah, I mean, it was great for fans to watch. Obviously not great. Nobody wants to see the Lionesses lose, but I think it is still another wake-up call of these are the types of teams that you can come up against and you have to find different ways to win.
Nice to see some new players get some minutes as well. I thought Lucia Kendall was brilliant. Obviously, won Player of the Match on her debut against Australia. I thought she was great. And obviously, you've both been part of the England camp plenty of times. Is it good when there's like new players through the door coming into the fold? Like, does it switch up the dynamic and bring fresh energy and that element of competition?
I think so. Look, there's always transitions in national teams in terms of new players coming in, older players going out. That is just the way that it works. So, yeah, I mean, look, it's obviously a cycle now. It's looking towards the World Cup and what players are going to be part of that going into the World Cup. And you've got to see these players, they have to be playing consistently for their clubs week in, week out if they want to be at the level in terms of going into an international fixture. You want to test them against some of the top teams in the world, and I think this is a really key part now of the players that Serena is going to be calling in is, are you bringing them in because you're going to trust them in their moments? And the only way she's going to know that is picking them, playing them, and putting them against the likes of Brazil, the likes of Australia, and for me, I think it's really important over the next 2 years leading into the World Cup that the Lionesses get fixtures that is really going to test them. And for them to get Spain in the qualifying draw, that's a massive test for them to see, okay, how are we going to fare against it? And when you bring in new players as well who haven't played against the likes of Spain, of course, you have your core group, but you have to expose these girls to how it is to play against the likes of Spain, to play against the likes of Brazil, because it's completely different to WSL football. WSL football is obviously, it's at a level and it's progressing and it's getting so much better. But when you go on an international pitch and you're playing against other players who train just as hard as you, who are in professional environments just like you, the level goes up. It goes up, like, I would say maybe 3 or 4 gears. It's completely different in terms of the physicality, in terms of the tempo of play, the consequence of losing as well. Obviously, it's a lot higher in terms of looking at World Cup football. So you have to expose them to these games in order to know, right, okay, can I count on you when I look, whether, I'm starting you, whether I look to you on the bench, can I count on you to come in against the likes of America, against the likes of Brazil, Spain? And that's the only way Serena's going to learn is bringing them in and getting them integrated into the team. And some players, they will survive there and they'll stay there, and some players will probably get switched out and other players will come in, and that's just the transition period of what I think the Lionesses is going through.
Beth, what do you remember of your first England camp? Who was nice to you? Who was welcoming?
Oh God. Obviously Fran. She
Can
was.
I tell the story about when you got your email? We were away. Where were we? Were we away on like a Champions League trip or something? And
No, we were in pre-season tour in
yeah,
Israel.
yeah. And I remember I had got the email first, and you used to get a list of everyone who was on the camp. I don't
The
think they do
squad,
that
yeah.
anymore. Actually, I
They
don't
don't
think
do
they
it anymore.
sent.
It's a
No.
secret now.
Yeah, it's just like even the players don't know who's been
Yeah.
selected for camp until it comes
Yeah.
out. But I remember I was looking for my email and I saw Beth's name. And I remember I was sitting at a table. I think I could see you on another table.
Yeah.
And I think I showed Maren and I was like, let's just look at Beth. Let's just look at Beth until she sees the email. I think I even videoed you. I probably
Yeah.
recorded
There's
you
a video
actually.
somewhere of
Yeah.
me,
And
yeah.
I was so proud. And I was like, we just need to just watch it. I remember Beth opening the email and she was sat there. I'm just
Huh?
like looking around.
Yeah, lo and
Just so
behold,
nice.
video me, and then she did a lovely little speech for me, and everyone clapped me, and yeah, it was a really nice moment to find out amongst obviously my teammates at the time. Yeah, I'm really proud, and I always remember my first camp because we lost the first 2 games when I was there, and I was devastated because I
Oh,
thought,
no.
oh, like England, like we're gonna win, or like you have to really push yourself, and Fran's right, like the gear level is next level, and you have to really be able to step up in those moments. And I remember speaking a little bit with Steph Houghton. She was really lovely. Obviously Ellen White, being a fellow striker, was very much like welcoming and wanting to like just basically say, if you need anything, I'll show you the ropes a little bit, which was really nice to have that confidence from her. Obviously Jill Scott, being the joker that she is, was just very welcoming. But yeah, I think it was a bit sad knowing that I'd lost my first 2 games, but then after that it was plain sailing.
Yeah, of course it was. Love it. Okay, back to the current Lionesses, and obviously Agyemang came off injured, and we now know it's her ACL, so nasty injury. And I'm just gutted for her because it felt like her star power was being fully realised. She was getting the minutes, she was carrying on from what was a great Euros for her. Have you had a chance to speak to her or check in with her, Fran?
Yeah, she was at the club last week for a couple of days, and it's one of them ones where you don't know what to say. It's and of course, like we're all saying, we're here for you if you need anything. It's just such an awful moment, and I think the way that obviously there's been so many ACLs in the women's game in the last month, it just kind of adds. I think every time there's a new one, it kind of like hits the heart, and then it hits the heart again, and it's just like each time it just hits you down lower and lower. And then you have someone who has so much talent, who is, was going to probably go on to do amazing things this year. And now that's been taken away from her. And it's really sad. And obviously we all saw her, and, of course she was a little bit deflated, but also I would say optimistic. Like she has a good head on her shoulders. She knows that now, it's going to be a really tough time. She's going to have to work extremely hard. But I hope she uses this time as much as she can to learn about herself more, learn about what she needs to do, study the game more, watch herself back in clips and visualize of where she was at, where she can go. And of course, she has a period now where she can get herself back and get ready for the World Cup.
Yes.
And that is probably the thought process that's going on in her head in terms of, okay, this is awful right now. I need to do everything I can to make sure that when I go back on the pitch, I'm stronger than I was, I'm physically better than I was, and, keep herself in the right frame of mind. And, I think when we talk about people recovering, when I spoke to her, I said, just have a healthy recovery. Don't stress yourself and that you have to come back within 9 months. If it takes 9 months, great. If it takes 10 months, great. If it takes 13 months, make sure you come back healthy. And I think that's really important for her because she's so young. She has to get these steps right in order to kind of sustain the level of her performance going over, hopefully for the next 12, 13, 14 years. But yeah, I was absolutely devastated for her. But She's got a good head on her shoulder. She's got good people around her. She'll go back to Arsenal for her rehab with players who have also been through the same injury, so they know how to help her, how to support her, and help guide her through. But of course, I've said it plenty of times to her, but I really do hope that she has a really good, healthy recovery. And I think the whole of women's football is hoping that for her, as well as the other girls, obviously, who are currently going through the similar injury as well. I hope that they all have a healthy recovery and they all can get back playing football, as soon as they can and as healthy as they can.
Yeah, that's so true. That's really great advice as well, because you don't want her rushing back sooner, because that actually might be more damaging, in the long term. Someone who is already back from an injury and seems kind of indestructible is Lucy Bronze. Obviously now 142 caps England, Farrah Williams on 172. Maybe, just maybe, Lucy is going to surpass her one day. I mean, for me, she's one of, the greatest, most passionate players that's ever worn an England shirt. What does make her such a good person to play with?
I think what sets her apart from everyone else is just her mentality. Like, that girl is just a machine. Like, whatever adversity is thrown her way, she just takes it in her stride and is like, I'm going to prove you wrong, no matter what comes. And I think not many people will turn around and say, yeah, I've got a broken leg, but I'm going to play through an entire Euros with it, and then I'll just worry about it afterwards, and then still come back and continue to do what she's probably still fitter, faster than most people after being out for 6 weeks or whatever, however long it takes to heal a broken bone. Don't quote me on that, because I don't know how long it takes for a bone to heal. She's just on another level, and I think this is why so many people love her and admire her, because most people would think, well, that's a bit stupid going and playing with a broken leg, because she could have seriously done some bad damage. But in her head, it's like, no, I know what my body can sustain. I know what I can push my body through. Up here, I will make it do what it needs to do. And she stepped up in the biggest moments on the biggest stage, driving those girls forward. And I think she is a once in a lifetime type of player that you will really struggle to find anyone with her athleticism, her speed, her knowledge. To an extent, I would say technical ability, which she's definitely worked on throughout the years. But first and foremost, that mentality is, there's no match in that. And that's why she is such a legend of the game. And I can guarantee you, I fully wholeheartedly believe she will overtake Farah in the caps forefront, because I don't think she'll ever retire from international. I think football will retire before Lucy Bronze retires.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, I mean, just to reiterate what Beth said, it's just so impressive as a teammate to see her consistently perform. It's not even perform, but it's just go to new heights every season. A lot of us, we've had fantastic careers, but she's had major moments every year, pretty much. And to be able to do that and sustain that and play at the best teams in each league, it's not easy. It's not easy to do. So it's definitely a mentality thing. And then also what Beth said, the athleticism that she has, the strength that she has. I'll be seeing this girl come off the pitch with about 4 ice packs on her knees, her calves, her quads. And then she's going in the gym and deadlifting 150 kg. And I'm like, you've literally just come off the pitch like you can't walk, and now you're lifting more than I could ever imagine in the gym. It's so impressive, and it's what she's lived for her whole life. And she's obviously struggled with injuries in her previous years, and I think that's really allowed her to learn a lot about her body and learn what Beth said, what she can push herself through. But I always see a little bit of jokes here and there, and people are like, God, like, how is Lucy Bronze still playing in the national team?
Yeah.
And I'm looking at it, I'm like, you can't replace her. You can't replace her. If you replace her, you lose that drive in the England team. And there's a reason why Serena still picks her and plays her. There's a reason why Sonia, as soon as Lucy Bronze is fit and available to play, she plays. This is not just, oh, well, it's Lucy Bronze, we need to keep her happy. It's not that at all. It's because she brings something to a team that not many other players have. There's young players who would be looking at it going, why, I should probably get a spot at right back now. But, Lucy Bronze is still, a top quality player. She's not in there by name. She's in there by merit and what she brings every time she plays. So I think it's a no-brainer for me that when she's fit and available, she plays. it's just whether, the body can sustain and keep going, which I'm sure she'll do everything she can to make it happen. But yeah, for me, it's incredible the way that she's led every single year. And it's been a great year for her every single year for however many years I can remember playing with her and against her.
She's been the first player to be nominated 7 times for FIFA 11 Pro. You
Right.
don't do that by chance. Like, to be named in some of the top players in the world 7 years, like, consistently is a damn right good achievement. And I think, as like you've said, Fran, so many people think, why is she still playing? Why is she still getting picked? Because she is not there on her name. She's there on merit, and full credit to her. And I think it's great to see that she gets the appreciation and recognition that she deserves.
Yeah. And long may it continue. I can see her going to the World Cup. I can see her playing until she's 80, to be honest. She's Lucy Bronze. She does what she wants.
Kids will be grown up by then, Fran.
Let's dig into the games from the weekend. We'll start with your Brighton side, Fran, playing Man United, who are currently unbeaten in the WSL this season. Unfortunately for you, it did stay that way. How was the game from your perspective?
Yeah, it was tough. It was tough. It was a good game. I think, we had some really, really good moments. I just don't think we had enough good moments. And I think that was probably the biggest difference. I think we stressed them a little bit with the way that we played. But, Manchester United, they're a quality side, and I really like the midfield dynamic that they have there in Ella Toon, Jess Park, and Miyazawa. I think I've said that correctly. If I haven't, I apologise. But, the way that they can control the midfield and keep the ball and play little 1-2s and the movements, it's really fluid. And they just control the game. And that was probably our most difficult moment was, we were a bit sloppy on the ball, and we would turn the ball over way too much. And when you keep giving a team like United the ball back, it's very difficult to find a rhythm and find a play. And yeah, I mean, I was really proud of the team in terms of, we didn't have the best first half performance, but second half I felt that we really came into the game a little bit more and had a little bit more momentum, I would say. But I just don't think that we were good enough for large enough spells to warrant kind of winning the game. But, I do think, if I'm speaking as a Brighton player, and Man United may completely disagree with me, but I think we deserved a draw from the game. I mean, we didn't do it, but I think looking at kind of the momentum that we had, especially in the second half going into the latter stages of the game, I really felt that we could have got something from it. But like I said, I don't think we were good enough for enough time of the game to kind of sit here and go, we deserved a win or we deserved something else. So it was a good learning for us, but also a kind of a learning of, we can play out against these teams. We can keep the ball against these teams. We can defend well against these teams. So yeah, it was interesting in that respect. But yeah, it was a good learning for us, and it was good to play against a team like Manchester United to kind of test ourselves again against a top quality side.
Some great moments from you, Fran. A lovely goal. There was a last-ditch tackle as well to keep out an early shot from Jess Parks. Love that. And you mentioned...
I appreciate that. I appreciate that little shout out there. I sprinted all the way back from a corner for that one.
I got that. I thought, I bet she's knackered. Got to give you your flowers. You mentioned Jess Parks.
I was.
Let's talk about her, because she is like collecting Player of the Match awards like their stickers. She has just been so brilliant. Obviously, an assist and a goal for her in that game in the end. But she's just everywhere, constantly driving forward, just weaving through defence. That link up with Ella Toon is really connecting. Beth, what have you made of Jess's performances for Man United this season?
I mean, I think you're seeing a player that feels like the shackles have come off. I think she's playing freely. She's electric. She's got good pace, really tight when dribbling the ball. She's got good vision. I mean, you've said it yourself, her link up with Ella Toon, they're, joint almost like goal assist combinations this season. And I think we're really starting to see the best of her. And I think she's flourishing in that position. Obviously, you go to a new team, albeit it's just the other side of Manchester. I think you want to impress. Sometimes those nerves can get the better of you, but she has slotted into that team and, in my opinion, taken that team to new heights. I think she's brought a different dynamic that they haven't had before in that midfield. And I do think like her and Ella Toon complement each other so well. And I think teams are clearly struggling to nullify that threat. But yeah, I mean, it's never nice being on the receiving end of when players are in form and they're doing well and scoring against you. But in the same breath, you can appreciate as a footballer seeing someone that confident and happy and playing to the best of their potential is always really great. So I think for me, I'm happy for her. I think she's doing a phenomenal job, as well as obviously she needs the service around her as well, but she's showing she can find the back of the net as well as provide assists for other players. Which is only going to bring more to her game now the more minutes she plays. And I think going forward for the future, she's going to be such a key and dangerous player for Man United and the Lionesses.
Yeah, 100% a star in the making, that is for sure. Okay, to your game next, Beth, at home against Liverpool. And you scored a banger as well. How did you find that game?
I had the easy part, I think. Lovely Amanda Nilden put it on a plate for me, and I just had to do the easy part. But I think, you know what? I looked at Liverpool. We've obviously studied them a lot prepping for that game, and we've had a few weeks to prep for them. Obviously, we being international break, and I truly don't believe they should be where they are in the table because they have such great possession. They've got great fluidity. I think one thing they are lacking at the minute is that goal scorer. They are missing that final product, but they are not a team to count against because they play some really wonderful football. Their counter pressures, I think in our game, if I'm correct on the stats, it was almost like 50-50% um, possession, but they had a lot of the possession in their own half. And I'm like, if you're going to hurt teams, you need to find a way of having that possession in other teams' halves and sustaining those attacks. And they did have a couple of chances. I wouldn't say, obviously, we gave away an early goal, which we were disappointed with. I do believe we deserve to win the game. And I'm not just saying that because we won the game. I think our chances were better, but I don't doubt that they are a team that people can't count against and think, oh, they're at the bottom of the table. They're not that good because they're strong, they're physical, they've got a lot of pace. I just think they're lacking that finishing touch at the minute. And obviously, Gareth Taylor needs to figure out what he's going to do in terms of making those finishes happen. They've lost a couple of players now due to injuries, as we've mentioned before about ACLs. I think they lost 2 in like 1 or 2 weeks, which is devastating. 2 key players, may I add, for them, which are probably more ones that would pull the strings a little for them. But yeah, it was definitely a tough game and not an easy one by any stretch. But ultimately, we're just chuffed to bits to get the points and stay in the top half of the table.
Yeah, that goal, by the way, makes you the first player in the WSL to net 50 home goals. The record's for you in terms of goals.
Yeah.
Come on. We love to see it.
Thank you. Yeah, no, obviously it's another proud one going in the history books. I didn't even know it was a thing, to be honest, until I seen it. But yeah, like obviously I'm a striker. I want to score goals, and ultimately the points are what's most important. But it doesn't do the ego any harm if you bag a goal or two either. So I'm chuffed to bits with that.
Yeah, of course. And you definitely made your mark on that game, as did Olivia Holt. I love watching her. I think she really dictates play. Obviously joined Spurs in January, but it seems like she's really hitting her stride now and can, really influence the game. Fran, what have you made of her?
Yeah, I really like watching her last season as well, actually. I think, when she signed for the club, and I remember we played against you, and I remember watching her, I was like, yeah, she's a really tidy player. She's good on the ball, she's dynamic, she's strong, physical. And I think I would say probably last year it was just kind of like the final product wasn't quite there. She was really good kind of getting out of tight areas, driving the team forward. And I think you kind of, when you miss that final product, I think I was going to say quite similar about Jess Park. We've always known that, she's a very fantastic footballer. It's just, it was the final product in terms of the goal, in terms of the assist. Whereas I think, Olivia this year, it just seems like things are clicking a little bit more for her in terms of, and it takes time, when you come to a new league, the league is a lot higher level, so it takes a bit of time. But when a player gets comfortable and they get confidence, it can change how players play. And yeah, I think it's really nice for me to see a player that is so confident with expressing themselves. And that's what I like about her, the way that she kind of can drive with the ball, and she just looks powerful when she does it. And, when you have players who will just put the ball in the box for someone like Beth, 9 times out of 10, it's probably going to end up in the back of the net. So she's probably also learning a little bit of how to play with her teammates and try and get the best out of each other. And that's what you want. You want to find them combinations, those relationships on the pitch. And ultimately, it's only going to make you a better player. And I think that's what I see when I watch her a bit more now, is she's looking for the link up rather than kind of going, where am I going next with the ball? It just looks like she's a lot more comfortable and confident on the pitch.
Yeah, decision making has definitely got a bit sharper, I think. And Spurs in general looking great. You're currently 4th in the table. It seems like, watching you guys, you've got a real identity and playing style this season. Is that because of the gaffer? Is that Martin Ho being very kind of clear and ambitious with what he wants? Like, what's it like working with him, Beth?
Yeah, obviously to an element, he's instilling parts in our game that we've not really had before, I think. I mean, we've won 5 games. This is the same amount of games we've won in the entirety of last season, which is, quite frankly, a frightening stat for us, because we knew the levels weren't there last year, and we've already matched that. We've already kept more clean sheets than we did the whole of last season as well. And I think we're putting such a strong willingness to make sure that we're keeping the ball out of the net as much as possible. We're keeping teams to fewer chances against us. I think our defensive back line, no matter who stepped in, has done a phenomenal job. Obviously, there's been blips, likes of the Man City game. Disappointing not to come away with anything more against Chelsea. But I think in terms of the performances we're putting in, we are starting to play what they would class as the Spurs way. But we're also aware how quickly things can change. You look at that league table, there's not many points that separate a good chunk of the teams. And so all it takes is 1 or 2 games and you could be down near the bottom of the table. And I think that's the beauty of the league, is that you could end up anywhere, and you've always got to be on your A game. But for me, obviously, I'm happy where we're at. We're still chasing. We're trying to stay above and as close to the top as possible. We've got a couple of good games coming up, which hopefully will ensure that we stay in the position that we're at.
Let's hope so. Okay, now to the game I was at on hosting and DJ duties at Stamford Bridge, which I think, is why Chelsea secured the wins, obviously powered by my great song selections. Chelsea, though, had to work hard for that win. I thought London City Lionesses played well, quite physical, actually did have the ball a fair bit as well. What did you two make of this matchup?
Yeah, it was always going to be an interesting game coming back from international break. Obviously, being a day earlier as well, giving less time to kind of prep and get ready for the game. But I would agree. I think Chelsea had to work for the win, definitely. And, I mean, you look at the team that London City Lionesses have and you're going, yeah, okay, Chelsea should have had to work for the win, But, and I think as well, when you look at the goals, I think it's a lapse in concentration for both goals for London City as well. And obviously, look, Sandy did extremely well to get to the byline, a bit of quick feet, Ellie Carpenter in the back post. But then you look at the defending, for me, it's a lapse in concentration. They've got 5 players in the box, London City, and not one person's picking up Ellie Carpenter at the back post. So, you're looking at it like that. And then obviously Sam Kerr scoring again at Stamford Bridge, which was a lovely, lovely moment for her. I'm sure everyone was really happy for her. But you're seeing it again. The goalkeeper comes out, heads the ball, quick, cheap turnover, empty goal. So, I wouldn't say that, Chelsea scored the most convincing goals, but look, they win the games. That is the most important thing for them, is winning the game of football. Doesn't matter how it looks. That's how it was when obviously we were there. Obviously, we don't know now what happens in the conversations, what they're having behind closed doors now. But yeah, I think, Chelsea are still, you can have a good team, but you've got to play well against Chelsea and you've got to have, another step, because you're gonna take something from them. You can have a good game, you've got to have a bit of luck, I would say. And, most of the time the luck falls with Chelsea and, they get the win that they need. So, yeah, I mean, it was good to see, London City putting up, the fight that they did, having some good chances as well while they did it. So, yeah, I enjoyed the game. And, I think it shows that the level in the league is creeping up and up and up. And, yeah, okay, Chelsea are however many points clear, but the games that they're playing, they have to work for. They're not easy games. It's not going to be we can turn up and just win. So I think that is also good where the league is at, comparing to, however many years ago when you kind of knew turning up to teams you were going to win. It was just a case of how many. So I enjoyed that side of it, that there was that competition there between both the teams.
Because you're playing London City Lionesses next, aren't you, Beth? So I don't know how you're going to feel about answering this question, but they have scored in their last few matches. Obviously, apart from this one against Chelsea, that's the thing that newly promoted teams often struggle to do. It does feel like things are starting to work for them a little bit. There's some definite positives, but hopefully not against you, obviously.
Yeah, obviously, yeah, we play them on the weekend. And I think I said this in an interview earlier today that a team like London City is one of the most dangerous teams to play because you don't actually know. You've not seen enough games with that caliber of players in the squad. They've got to know what they're actually going to do. And that's a difficult place to be in that grey area, because some teams, you know exactly what their formation is, what their style of play is, what their common themes are. With London City, you don't have enough depth of that and education to see that yet. And I think they have some phenomenal players in that team that are, I mean, they're sitting mid-table. It's not like we all expect, a new team coming in like Crystal Palace have done, Bristol have done before. They come up and then they go straight back down. London City are obviously pumping money in where they're getting the caliber of players. It will take time for those players to gel and naturally get those relationships working. But ultimately, they're showing that they're still able to compete and take points off teams. I know when they beat Liverpool, albeit I know it was a penalty in the last minute almost, but they're still creating those opportunities to get in positions to win that penalty, to secure those points. And I think not many people can sit there and say it's going to be an easy win because of them being a new team. They are very much a team that are trying to make a statement in this league, and that is certainly what they're doing. I think they've been unlucky in some of the games they've had. Like you said, Fran, against Chelsea, there were some chances that could have actually put them ahead. But against teams like Chelsea, you don't have many chances. You have to take them. And when you don't, as it's shown, you get punished. Because when you make the mistakes, a team like Chelsea punishes you. And that's exactly what we saw. Like you said, 5 players in the box. The keeper, could you argue, could she have done better trying to stop the ball going straight across the 6-yard box? The defender stopping Sandy's cross was tight. And then all of a sudden she was left. Don't get me wrong, it's individual brilliance, which we love to see in the game. But I do think if they tidied up some more of their mistakes, which we all make mistakes, they certainly could have got more out of the game than what they did.
And they had some celebrity fans in tow, did London City Lionesses. I walked past Megan Rapinoe at the end of the game. She was there on the sidelines chatting to some of her fellow American players. And it got me thinking, have you guys ever had, famouses come to see you or any kind of weird celebrity spots at games and stuff? Because I guess sometimes you don't really know who's watching, do you?
We don't really see it till after the game when it's kind of been sent in a picture. It's I think in the women's game it's becoming a lot more like that now, isn't it? Where the celebrities are coming down to the pitch after the game and having a picture with the players. Whereas I don't think that really happened with us. It wasn't until after the game where you'd be like, oh, that person was at the game. But I don't know exactly.
Did you meet David Beckham, Fran, with England?
Yeah.
I would say that's the biggest one I would say for you guys. But for myself, I can't recall, but I was very, very jealous.
Yeah, he came to watch a couple games, and then he came, I think, he came to one of our dinners. Was it in the Euro? No, it wasn't in the Euros. He came to when we were having dinner before a game, and he came in and said hello and everything. So yeah, probably David Beckham.
It's not a bad one.
No, not a bad one. But I really enjoy when the likes of John Terry would come down and watch Chelsea women. I think David Luiz came to a couple of games as well. And I really enjoyed that. Yeah, Aspie would have come down as well. So I really like that when, we were playing and the men's team would come down and support us and, send messages saying good luck for the game. And they all knew, how we got on. They all knew who had scored. And when we were going into for recovery, they're like, oh, you beat Arsenal at the weekend. Like they always knew how we were getting on. Yeah. Thinking what club should I say here, but I thought, stick to my guns.
See what you did there, stick to your guns.
Very good, very good. All right, back to the next game, which is Leicester City against Arsenal, actually, at the King Power Stadium. Lots of goals, finished 4-1 to Arsenal. I mean, earlier in the season, there were all these concerns that Arsenal weren't being clinical enough in front of goal, but they were very much in form in this game, weren't they, Beth?
They've got an abundance of players that can score goals, haven't they? Obviously, Leslie Rousseau, she's just a natural goal scorer. You got the creativity of Beth Mead, and I think I could be here all day listing the amount of depth they've got in that squad that can score them goals. And I don't know what it was at the start of the season where they weren't fully clicking in terms of getting the goals they were probably expected, or they were probably showing more weaknesses in their defensive unit by conceding a few goals. But they've certainly managed to turn the tables around and have got themselves on track where they're in quite good form. And I think, again, another team where they can be punished, but you probably won't get many chances to punish them. I think the Leicester City goal was a individual brilliance where she's run half the pitch. She's just outpaced them, and what a phenomenal way to score a goal against the Gunners, by the way. But sometimes against teams like that, it does take that bit of individual brilliance, which is exactly what they did. But it's just a shame that the rest of the performance didn't quite match what they wanted to bring. And yeah, Arsenal just dominated it and ran away with the points, really.
But great goals all round. I thought Blackstenius's 2 goals in particular were amazing. And I think in the past there's been this conversation of whether Rousseau and her can actually play together. But it definitely worked on this occasion, I thought, Fran.
Yeah, look, they're very different players, different style of players. I think you've got Rousseau, who likes to link up the play, get a little bit more involved, whereas you've got Blackstenius, who's more of a willing runner in behind in terms of getting herself into the channels. And, I think one thing that I noticed with Arsenal, and I think this is why I think that it will be good for them to work together, is that a lot of the time when Rousseau comes low to link the play, Arsenal don't have someone in the box. And when you have Rousseau as your standout number 9, when she's coming to link the ball, which she's fantastic at, by the way, I think it's a really big strength of hers. But you've got to have someone who's replacing her in that box. So she comes and links the ball with a midfielder who goes out wide to a winger. The winger's looking up to cross. And there's, haven't quite got in the box there because she's gone to link the play. So that's where I think they can work together very, very well. They just need to find that partnership. And also, who do you not play? Because obviously then you have to drop someone who maybe you've been playing more consistently. So I think they can work very well together if they can make it work. And maybe Rousseau plays more of a 10 or a false 9, and Blackstenius is the one who kind of runs in behind and does them channel runs. And I think it's nice as well to see Blackstenius score, because I do think that she gets a lot of chances in a game to score goals. So I always, as a player, you always want someone to put the ball in the back of the net to give them that confidence, because I think sometimes when you watch her, you're kind of hoping that the goal goes in for her. And obviously now Arsenal getting them goals, getting her a few confidence goals as well, will be massive for her going forward. I think what I like to see with players as well is get rewarded for doing well. So like saying now, if she scored a couple goals, you don't just take her out of the team now. You give her some rhythm, you give her some flow, see how she's going to go in the next few weeks. Because I think the worst thing you can do to a player when they score a couple goals is you take them out because of tactics or because of personnel. Then they have to start again from scratch. Instead of just giving them the flow, giving them the confidence, just keep going, going, going. And I think that is what she needs. I think she needs a run of games, starting from the beginning, getting the chances consistently and hitting the back of the net more consistently. And then I think it will just keep getting better and better. So there's definitely a way they can work together. It's just working out what personnel you put around them to make it work.
Yeah, going to be interesting to see how that plays out for sure. Glad I'm not the manager, because it sounds a tiny bit of a headache. Okay, on to Aston Villa and Everton next. An end-to-end game with plenty of goals. Again, we were definitely treated this weekend. And I think this is 2 teams that are being way more ambitious than they ever have been in the WSL. So that's also just a great thing to see.
Obviously, looking at that game, you've got 6 goals. You think one of the teams thinking, I'm actually coming away with the points here, and then it's just end-to-end. I think you look at the 2 teams, Aston Villa, correct me if I'm wrong, have sold some of their shares, or someone's part-owned the women's side now, so there's more investment going into their women's team. Everton are pumping a lot of money into their women's team. Like, they're really trying to make a statement and show that they want to push to compete in this league, which is ultimately what everyone wants. Everyone wants all the teams to invest more, bring in the best players, create a better league for everyone and the fans to watch. And I think what you're seeing is 2 teams really pushing, not just off field, but now you're starting to see the rewards on field, albeit they're conceding, but they're still creating opportunities and scoring. So that is also promising, but you can't always open up one end without being exposed at the other. So they have to find that balance on making sure that if they do go ahead in games, how do I sustain that win? Or if I am chasing a game, how can we chase it but still lock up at the back?
A player I loved watching is Gargo. I feel like she gets in all the right spaces, quite a promising player with a lot of flair as well. Like, when just someone's like just wanting to make stuff happen. Love that energy.
Yeah, she's a handful, that's for sure, for defenders. And I think she had a bit of an injury at the beginning of this season, so she wasn't playing as much. But any player that can put the ball in the back of the net is always going to be exciting. Always going to be an exciting player to watch. But when it's really interesting, because I was actually having this conversation earlier with one of the players, and I was like, you can't concede 3 goals and expect to win the game. But then they both scored 3 goals, so you're kind of like, okay, like what is good here? Is the attack good? Is the defense bad? But these results are really exciting for women's football. And like Beth said, when you're watching end-to-end football, I mean, I hate playing in that.
Yeah,
So
it's
I mean, it's
transitional.
great for everyone to watch, but for us to play in it, it's absolutely awful, and we hate every second of it. But I think for the league and for the excitement around the league, it's great. And as well, you're probably looking at that game a few years ago and going, Everton versus Aston Villa. Not many people probably paying attention to it, but people are probably watching Brighton Man United and seeing the scores going up and up, and I go, oh, we're going to turn on to this game now. It creates a different, view of like what people want to watch, and they want to watch the exciting games. So hopefully, I'm not involved in any other games that go like that, but I'm sure it's really nice for everyone to watch.
Oh, yeah, I loved it. Box office business. All right, last game to chat about is the Man City and West Ham game. And poor West Ham, they just can't seem to catch a break. And if I'm honest, I thought it was a decent performance. I mean, they hit the bar, but still just no points for them. At this point in the season, it's not looking great.
No, I'll be honest, it's not. And I think, again, almost like Liverpool, like, they're putting in good performances, but just the final product isn't there. And I think what we're seeing is a team who are so desperately, they're almost trying too hard at this point to score, where just nothing's going right for them. And you're just almost waiting for the anticipation of when are they going to get the first 3 points. Then it's that weight off your shoulders. Like, we can finally breathe a little bit. We've got points on the board. Like, it's a tough, dark place to be in when you've played this many games, not a single point, and you've got a hefty goal difference against you. So going into a game like Man City, you're thinking, we just need to survive. And you know what? They fully took the game to them, and City really had to work to get the win. I mean, it was a great goal, and I think, again, a team like Man City, you can't give too many opportunities to, because they will punish you. Whereas, like you said, they hit the woodwork. They had some great chances. Last season, we saw towards the end of last season, West Ham kind of found their form where they were scoring lots of goals. They were taking points off big teams. Like, I remember did they draw or take points from Chelsea and Arsenal towards the end of the season? And like, I'm just looking at them thinking, wow, next season they're really going to flourish if they can maintain this form that they're in. Sadly, I think everyone else has gotten stronger and they've still kind of stuck where they are, but they're not actually, they're still at the same place. They're just not finishing the chances they were previously, which is ultimately killing them. And yeah, I think it's looking like a dark, lonely road for them right now. And I don't know what they can do to turn it around. I don't actually know who their next fixture is, but I can imagine if I was a player in that dressing room, I'd be looking around thinking, we seriously need to get some points before this international break if we're going to look to compete and not actually be seriously worried about being relegated.
Yeah, I looked it up. They are playing Leicester City next week, which is a huge game at the bottom of the table. They'll
Big game.
really be hoping that they secure some points there, because, that could really, like you say, just take some pressure off them and they can start playing again with a bit more freedom, maybe.
Yeah, definitely. I think they need the points, and Leicester have actually got some points, so they need the points as well. But they're not as, I don't think there's as much pressure on their shoulders as there is West Ham.
Okay, so who's up next for you guys? You've got London City Lionesses. We've already chatted about that, Beth. Who are you playing next, Fran?
We play Liverpool.
You need to promise me
Thank
something.
you.
I want more goals from both of you, okay? And they've got to be bangers. And I'll see you next week for a full debrief. Thank you, Beth. Thank you, Fran. And thank you for listening, everyone. We will see you soon.